Hello and welcome to cloudy Camden. It's a dull Tuesday afternoon and I'm going to be walking around the King's Cross area just looking at some of the magnificent buildings. The building that we see before us is the St Pancras International Hotel. Now this hotel was opened in 2011 and occupies much of the former Midland Grand Hotel that was designed by George Gilbert Scott and was opened in 1873 and closed in 1935. After closing as a hotel, the building was renamed St Pancras Chambers and used as railway offices, eventually for British Rail. British Rail wanted to demolish it in the 1960s, but it was thwarted in a high-profile campaign by Jane Hughes Fawcett of the Victorian Society, who apparently became a right pain in the backside, but a necessary pain in the backside. And in 1967, the hotel and the St Pancras station received Grade 1 listed status. The great poet John Betjeman also helped in that campaign, but more about him later. It's not unsurprising that the hotel has been used for much TV and film work. I dropped in a piece just a few minutes ago about a novel from Douglas Adams, mentioning it as a Gothic masterpiece, and it seems that in the last 20 to 30 years it's really gained some cult status as a Gothic icon of London. We're now passing Camden Town Hall, known as St Pancras Town Hall until 1965, and is the headquarters of Camden London Borough Council. This building was designed by Albert Thomas, who also designed housing schemes for the St Pancras Borough Council in the neoclassical style. A Caribbean carnival, precursor of the Notting Hill Carnival, was held here on the 30th of January 1958, organised by activist Claudia Jones, as a response to the 1958 Notting Hill race riots and the state of race relations in Britain at the time. This block of flats caught my eye. It's Queen Alexandra Mansions. It's an Edwardian mansion block built in 1905. Moving back a little in history, it's no wonder that the Victorian influence is very strong in areas like Camden. Pre the Industrial Revolution and the reign of Queen Victoria, this area was really just open fields. And during the Industrial Revolution, it saw a massive growth in population and urbanisation. Very shortly we'll see a blue plaque for Paul Nash. He was a British surrealist painter and war artist, as well as a photographer, writer and designer of applied art. Nash was amongst the most important landscape artists of the first half of the 20th century. He also played a key role in the development of modernism in English art. I'm filming the Dolphin Pub. Now, I've never been to this place. I never knew it existed before today, but I rather like the look of it, and I was intrigued by the English and the Irish flag flying outside. There's no surprise there. This area is known for having a strong Irish community. I'm walking back up Bidber Street and it gives me another excuse to look at this magnificent building, Camden Town Hall. An 8-storey extension was built in this part of the building in 1977, and a rooftop conservatory was added in the 1990s, and further development took place in the early parts of 2020, which has seen massive improvements to the building. Now we can see the iconic British Library. Prior to 1973, the library was part of the British Museum. The library is now located in a purpose-built building on the disused site of the Midland Railway's Summertown Goods Yard and Potato Market. The British Library is one of the two largest libraries in the world, along with the Library of Congress, and it is estimated to contain between 170 and 200 million items and books. The St Pancras building was officially opened by Queen Elizabeth II on the 25th of June 1998 and is classified as a Grade 1 listed building of exceptional interest for its architecture and history. Now we're changing buildings and going back to the St Pancras International Hotel. I mentioned that the hotel was much used in films and books. I'll make mention of 3 other films. Christopher Nolan's 2005 film Batman, The Arkham Asylum Stairwell, was filmed in this hotel. Also, the hotel was seen in the background of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I dropped in 2 magnificent interior shots, the centre stairwell and the stairs leading from the main foyer. Now, apologies here, I'm jumping between buildings, featuring one building going to another and then coming back to that original building. It's difficult to sort of fit this in order, so please bear with me. To be honest, I hadn't really planned the walk that well. I knew I was coming to this area and had a rough idea of where I'd go, and then I sort of just went here, there and everywhere. Now we're back onto the British Library and I'll go through an interesting fact. On Friday the 5th of April 2013, the library announced that it would begin saving all sites with the suffix .uk in a bid to preserve the nation's digital memory. The library would make all the material publicly available to users by the end of 2013 and would ensure that through technological advancements all the material is preserved for future generations. I've dropped in a shot of the British Library's famous reading room. I think I might have some clarity for once. We're now approaching the famous Francis Crick Institute for Biomedical Research. The mission statement of the Francis Crick Institute is discovery without boundaries. There's no limit in the direction research takes. The aim is to understand more about how living things work to help improve treatment, diagnosis and prevention of human disease and generate economic opportunities for the UK. The Crick is an outcome of a merger between the National Institute for Medical Research and Cancer Research UK's London Research Institute. The former was based at Mill Hill in North London and the latter at Lincoln Inn Fields. And the institute was named after the scientist Francis Crick in recognition of his contributions to understanding the genetic code, the key to understanding how living things work. The institute was opened by Her Majesty the Queen in November 2016 and is maintained by 6 partners. The institute is the largest biomedical research under a single roof in Europe and contains a dedicated living centre. In a unique model for community engagement by a research institute, the institute itself has appointed a group of Camden charities to run a health and wellbeing centre for local people within its building. We can see that the building has a rather special feel, has a very open space, it's not meant to be closed off. The buildings and the meeting rooms within them are mainly made of glass, and this is to encourage an open and transparent approach. Part of Francis Crick's mission statement was to really connect different branches of science, and this interdisciplinary synergy is really what the Institute is about. Francis Crick himself started off as a physicist and at the age of 30 converted to being a molecular biologist. So he was very aware of the connections between different branches of science and how discoveries could be made and improved by the synergies that different sciences have with each other. I hope I've explained this as well as anybody can who has no idea about science. I'll carry on talking about Francis Crick in this spirit of complete non-understanding. Crick, Watson, Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins played crucial roles in deciphering the helical structure of the DNA molecule. Maurice Wilkins and Francis Crick were jointly awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. As we look at the front of the Institute, we can see some various slogans really describing the mission and the ethos of the Institute. We're going to take another look at this magnificent building, St Pancras International. I know the structure of the walk has been a little disjointed, but why not, have another look at this great building? And while I was walking along, I saw Lynch and Eddie Dempsey of the RMT, so I was able to have a quick chat with them and offer my support. So that was good. Didn't really feel that it was appropriate to show on film, though. And now some information about St Pancras International Station. The history of the station, it was commissioned by Midland Railway and officially opened on the 1st of October 1868. The station was officially reopened as St Pancras International with its high-speed service on the 6th of November 2007 by Queen Elizabeth II. We're now on the upper levels of the station and we can see this wonderful statue of the great poet John Betjeman, and this is a depiction in bronze by the sculptor Martin Jennings. Now, we've mentioned John Betjeman many times and hopefully we'll mention him many times in the future. His list of works in saving great buildings around London is almost endless. We were past the Blackfriar on the western edges of the city when we did the walk on the Victoria Embankment just a week ago, and we've mentioned his work there in saving that historic pub. Betjeman was a supporter of Victorian architecture and a founding member of the Victorian Society. We mentioned that society earlier on in the saving of the building that became later St Pancras International Hotel. We could go on and on about the great work of John Betjeman, but it's fitting that we end up at the Betjeman Arms, and even more fitting that we end up with a memorial to a true hero. That's it from the Angling Flaneurs. Hope you've enjoyed the walk, albeit rather disjointed.